Happy Easter Sunday and happy 420 for the broskies. In today's show, I'll be breaking down the latest Bitcoin technical analysis, as well as all the latest and breaking news you guys need to know in the headlines. We'll also be discussing a Bitcoin up 33% since the 2024 April halving, literally a year ago, as the institutional adoption disrupts this cycle. Let me turn my volume down on my mobile. Peter Schiff says Bitcoin is a fraud. Oh no. He says Strategy B, Michael Saylor's company, will probably go bankrupt. And we'll also be entertaining this, as well as the UK firm purchased $250 million worth of Bitcoin as analysts eye quiet this Easter weekend. BTFD, baby. Also, Charles Schwab CEO, I spot Bitcoin trading by April 2026. This is pretty massive considering the thousands of clients, they have access to. Will also be, or millions, I should say. Also, can BitBonds really work for the United States? Well, VanEck's proposal for the US to buy Bitcoin and refinance debt using $2 trillion to acquire up to 2.22 million BTC. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this plus so much more on Easter Sunday. And let's kick off the show with a nice gong strike for Christ, who has risen for us. So this gong strikes for Jesus Christ. And welcome everyone to the live stream. What it do? Happy Sunday, fam-a-lam. So yeah, here's what we're going to do. If you're new to the channel, it's very important. Smash the likes. It's free to subscribe as well. Then ring the bell, turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, including Easter Sundays, just like this. Today is pod episode number 1968. I'm your host, JV. It is Easter Sunday. It also happens to be 420. So happy 420, of course, for the broskies. Let's kick it off today with our market watch, as we do each and every day. You should be able to see Coin 360 pulling up right here. There we have it. Bitcoin, obviously, still just shy of 85,000, has been boring sideways trading action all weekend. Unfortunately, something's got to give, though. Will we reclaim 90 here this week, or will we retest 80? What are your honest thoughts? Please let me know. We also have Ether down 1.5%, trading back in the 15 to 16 hundo range. XRP, one of the few actually in the green today as far as the top cryptos are concerned. And checking out CoinMarketCap.com. The current crypto market cap sits at 2.68 trillion. The Bitcoin market cap, 1.68 trillion. Ironically enough, the entire crypto space is only 1 trillion, larger than Bitcoin itself, as Bitcoin dominance continues its pole position. 47 billion worth of volume past 24 hours. Dominance at 62.8 for the Biddy. Ether dominance all the way down to 7.2%. Checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. We have the Tau up 13%, followed by the infamous Fart Coin up 9%, followed by FED up 8%. Which alts, if any, are you bullish on for the bull holler? And checking out the crypto bubbles. We get a visual perspective on the day. Safe to say, bulk of the market in the green overall, but the top coins happen to be the ones correcting. I'd say maybe today 60-40, green over red. Zooming out for the weekly perspective, I would dare say 60-40, green over red. And zooming out on the monthly, I'd say probably 80-20, red over green, Rex City. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index, we're rising like Christ. Today we're at 37 in fear. Yesterday at 32, last week at 45, last month 31 in fear. And checking out the time chain calendar, we can currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,178 sats, so you know what to do with that. We're currently on block height 893,254, and we have 156,746 blocks until the next halving, which is all the way in 2028. And if you don't know, now you know. Next story of the day, a little astrology for the broskies. Let's break her down. Bitcoin tapped 3-day lows into the 420 weekly closes. Analysis warned of a fresh liquidity grab next. And here you're looking at a 1-hour chart, and shortly I'll pull up the live charts for the briskies. So yeah, trading view showed Bitcoin dropping 1.5% below 84 on the day before the rebound. Still broadly less volatile over the weekend. Bitcoin sought to stem the week's downside as doubts appeared over the strength of the nearby support. Investigating the current liquidity setup across the exchange order book, popular analyst Mark McCullen was skeptical of 83, quoting him here. Bitcoin 90,000 liquidity still calling, but I think the 83 level isn't safe. Those lows from last Sunday and Wednesday are likely to get run fast. Then we wait for the reaction and bullish structure to build back inside of the range low. Colin and others nonetheless saw a short-term biddy price range between 83 and 86, staying in place over the Easter holiday weekend, and lo and behold, precisely where we're at, just shy of 85 at the time of the live stream, quoting Alpha BTC. Bitcoin range bound. The long Easter weekend is likely to see Bitcoin play out a range between the 83 to 86, with it already sweeping the highs of the range late last week. In my opinion, we are going to see liquidity sought from the lows before a continuation higher. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the analysts. And meanwhile, Dan Crypto Trade says generally these moves are not one you want to be fading when it occurs. 83 to 86 is the range to watch in the short term. And also, let's not forget the CME Group's Bitcoin futures, inviting a creation of a gap that could provide the short-term price magnet, as oftentimes those gaps do get filled. And also, we have Rec Capital, who points out Bitcoin hasn't just broken the downtrend and successfully retested it as support for the first time since the downtrend formation, but Bitcoin has also been able to sustainably maintain above the downtrend for a period of several consecutive days now. And he makes a good point. And before I pull up some of the live charts, I wanted to point out Kiyosaki tweeted 5 hours ago, Bitcoin to 84 Gs today. Strongly believe the biddy will reach 180 and 200,000 this year. What do you think? I chimed in with my personal prediction, 222,000 bear scenario, 420 base case for the broskies. Happy 420. And 1.1 million bull scenario. Full send that mofo. Let me know if you agree to disagree with JV or Mr. Kiyosaki. And now here's one of my favorite visualizers. Check this out. Between 2012 and 2024, housing prices declined 99.99% for people smart enough to use Bitcoin as money. Literally, the average house in 2012 was over 50,000 Bitcoin. One halving later, 2016, 697 Bitcoin. 4 years later, again, one halving, 2020, 46 Bitcoin. Now, as last year, 2024, 5 Bitcoin. So what was once 50,000 Bitcoin, you can now purchase for 5 Bitcoin just from hodling. And it just goes to show you the purchasing power of the dollar is mathematically guaranteed to decrease your purchasing power, whereas the Bitcoin has the polar opposite effect. It's a mathematical certainty to increase your purchasing power, and what better example than in real estate? So yeah. And also Michael Saylor just posted another orange dot for the Saylor tracker. Every time he has done this, he announces a massive purchase the following day. So I'm anticipating on the 21st, Blackjack, baby, 21st of the month, he's going to make another announcement of acquiring more Bitcoin. So shout out to the Giga Chad. And here's some recent tweets from Max, which I want to read to you. Shout out Mr. Kaiser. Imagine if JFK, if he had Bitcoin to do battle with the CIA and central banks, and what you get is President Bukele today. El Salvador is the new Camelot. That's what's up. The Citadel isn't just a city. This is Bitcoin Camelot, just as pretty. And also the Bitcoin price on Easter dating back from 2012 was $5. 2013, $93. 2014, $500. 2015, $255. 2016, $418. 2017, $1,195. 2018, $6,850. 2019, $5,000. 325. 2020, $7,050. 2021, $58,000. 2022, $40,000. 2023, $28,500. 2024, $70,000. And this year on Easter, we have the highest Easter price we have ever had at $84,500. And if you don't know, now you know. Bitty Brosies and Bitty Baddies. 87 tonight. Send it, Brian. I also promised to pull up the charts, so let me pull up some of these charts via TradingView via Coinbase, and then we'll read some comments and continue with the news. Here you're looking at a 1 hour chart live and in the flesh, live action Jackson. 2 bull scenarios on the screen, one in the bitty orange sitting just above 88.1, and one in the forest green sitting at around 88 Gs. And zooming out, we take a look at the 4 hour chart and work our way backwards. We do have a rising wedge, 2 bear scenarios, one floating at around 82.5. And zooming out a little further from there, we take a look at the daily. And as you can see, we've been trading sideways literally for the past week, but nonetheless, we do have a bull scenario, which will take us back to price discovery. Discovery is currently sitting at 109.3, which was achieved January 20th, inauguration day. We have yet to re-enter price discovery. But if we hit this target on the daily chart, we'll be right back there, just shy of 112,000. Bear scenario also in play, just shy of 69,000. Let me know if you think the bottom is in when we hit 74 last week, or do you think we'll likely test lower? And then there's a super bear scenario at 49,000, which ain't happening, Captain, but I digress. And zooming out a little further from there, we take a look at the weekly. And again, in about an hour or so, we get the weekly close. The silver lining here is last week, we finally had a green weekly candle close, because the 2 weeks prior to that were red and red, and thus far we're forming a green candle. And again, we close in roughly an hour, so most likely it's going to be back-to-back green candles after back-to-back red candles. And zooming out a little, also I can't forget, we also have the target on your screen sitting at 124,000, which is a cup and handle formation sensation. And zooming out from there, we just take a quick look at a monthly, and the monthly chart. As you can see, thus far for the month of April, we're forming a green candle, which is a good sign, but it's still early. Got another 11 days to go. So there you have it. Let me know if you're currently bullish or bearish on the king of the biddies. So next story of the day, we'll discuss the particular halving cycle we're in right now. This headline caught my attention. Bitcoin up 33% since the 2024 halving. So keep that in mind. 12 months ago from today, Bitcoin is up 33%, even though we're practically down 33% from the all-time high. Let's not get her twisted. Bitcoin hodlers are celebrating 1 year since the 2024 Bitcoin halving. So happy halving as well as 420 in Easter and Christ rising. By praising the Bitcoin resilience amid the global trade war, suggesting an accelerated market cycle due to the growing institutional presence, the 2024 Bitcoin halving reduced the block rewards from 6.25 Bitcoin to 3.125 BTC, slashing the new Bitcoin issuance in half, like a samurai. Despite rising concerns over the global trade war and escalating the tariff tensions between the U.S. and China, Bitcoin has climbed more than 33% since April of 2024, as the data shows right here. So even though Bitcoin is showing resilience, I think the mix of past experiences, economic uncertainty, and this selling pressure is keeping the investors on the sidelines, waiting for a stronger green light before they jump, come on, jump, according to Emmanuel Cardozo, market analyst. Cardozo added that the institutional investment from firms such as Strategy and Tether could speed up the biddies' traditional 4-year halving cycle, as he outlines here. For the 2024 halving in May, that puts the bottom at around Q3 of this year and a peak mid-2026. But I think we might see things move it a bit sooner because of the market's more mature now with more liquidity. And I like that he mentions we could peak in 2026 because historically we've always had the cycle peak the year after the halving. But if things are changed now due to the institutional adoption and nation state adoption and all that kind of stuff, we could potentially continuously go up year after year and cycle peak later than anticipated. So I wanted to throw that out there. However, the Bitcoin trajectory remains tied to the broader monetary policy, he says. The U.S. Federal Reserve rate cut in May or June may pump it up, more money into the system and push the biddy up faster. The halving is a built-in feature for the biddy network that assures the Bitcoin scarcity, which is considered one of Bitcoin's defining monetary characteristics. That's right. Institutional adoption for the biddies via the ETFs may be contributing to the shorter market cycle, according to Vugar, Chief Operating Officer at BitGet. Continued institutional buying, including the biddy ETFs, paired with the Bitcoin rising scarcity, may accelerate Bitcoin's rise to new highs. Quoting him here, with growing scarcity triggered by the halving, Bitcoin will likely reset its all-time high if it breaches the 90,000 mark in the coming weeks. Let me know if you agree with that. And while the halving offers a good basis for the growth based on demand and scarcity, the timeline for impact on price can vary over time. He noted that Bitcoin growth remains closely tied to traditional financial markets and investor sentiment. Bitcoin reached a new all-time high, as you know, on Inauguration Day for the Trumpster. We achieved 109.3, which was 273 days after the 2024 Bitcoin halving, signaling an accelerated market cycle. And in comparison, it took Bitcoin 546 days to reach the all-time high after the 2021 halving and 518 days after the 27 halving. And just for context to correct that, the halving was actually in 2020 and in 2016, and they're just for some reason quoting the year after the halving, but I digress. Let me know your thoughts, family, regarding the halving cycles. Do you think the 4-year cyclical cycle remains intact, or do you think we continue on a bullish trajectory forever, Laura? But anyways, next story of the day, family. Let's break this story down. Just for the lack of not having a lot of good headlines, Peter Schiff caught my attention. We usually don't give him attention because he's a baby, pretty much always crying for it. But we'll entertain Peter Shifty here on Easter Sunday. He says Bitcoin is a fraud and that Strategy B, Michael Saylor's company, will probably go bankrupt. So here's the latest from the Schiffmeister. The start of the program, Schiff said Bitcoin promoters sold it as a kind of digital gold, but it hasn't performed like the precious metal at all. Marketing was a fraud, according to Shifty. Now, he also says the idea that his digital gold has been destroyed because it trades nothing like gold. It's just some kind of risk asset. But Bitcoin promoters did not say it would perform as an investment like with ROIs like gold. They said it is similar in its economic properties to the metal because of its limited supply and difficulty and cost of securing it. While it is true that the BitBond price lately has not traded like gold, that's because over timescales very relevant to individual investors, it has performed fantastically better than the yellow metal. And interesting. And as you know, gold recently hit an all-time high of $3,310 per troy ounce. So he's trying to flex on us here. Some fraud that would have to explain to a judge. He says, sorry, we told the litigant that the product was like an instrument that delivered 230% ROI in 16 years since 2009 and only delivered 2.8 billion percent since 2010. And on the podcast, Schiffmeister asks, what purpose does Bitcoin serve? We got plenty of risk assets out there. It is a super risk asset that is going to go up faster than the other risk assets. Based on what? He added, at least a tech stock, there's the story there for future earnings. That could materialize. You're buying a business that could earn money. Bitcoin provides a banking service, which is traditionally a very profitable, high-growth business because everyone needs it every day in a market economy. Moreover, Bitcoin does so in a way that is simple and fundamentally useful. It is proven to work reliably, fairly transparent, and easily for anyone to use. But there you have it. You know, Peter Schiffmeister is going to do what Schiffmeisters do best, which is ultimately FUD the greatest asset, the apex predator, the pretty little bitty. But there you have it. But anyways, next story of the day. Let's discuss this headline. UK firm bought $250 million in Bitcoin as analysts eye quiet Easter weekend. That's right. Whales and institutions are increasing their BitBond holdings ahead of Easter as market analysts predict a weekend with less volatility after 2 weeks of heightened volatility driven by the escalating global trade tensions. A wallet linked to the London-based investment firm Abrax. Man, how do I pronounce that? Abrax. Capital, she is Louise. I'm just going to call it AB. 2,949 Bitcoin worth more than $250 million during the 4 days leading up to April 19th. And in the latest transaction, the firm bought over $45 million worth of the BitBond from Binance on April 18th, according to Arcam Intel. Now, the investment came days after Mikey Saylor's strategy bought $285 million worth of the BitBond at an average price of $82.6 per BitBond. The world's largest corporate Bitcoin hodlers signal continued confidence in the BitBond amid the global tariff uncertainty. Large Bitcoin investors, which we know as the whales, continue to accumulate, absorbing over 300% of the BitBond's yearly issuance on the exchanges, continuing losing coins at the historic prices. And if you don't know now, you know. Despite the continued accumulation from the whales and the institutions, volatility concerns were raised by significant movements from the medium-term Bitcoin cohort, which holds coins for an average of 3 to 6 months. We call them the Dave Portnoy cabbage hands. And over 170,000 of the BitBond entered circulation from the medium-term cohort, a development that may signal imminent crypto market volatility. I repeat, imminent. The effect of this metric on the low time frame moves is overstated, as the large on-chain movements of the coins hardly ever affects the weekend price action, since it is not liquid on the markets or the central exchange markets. It is important to note that funding rates remain relatively flat currently. Moreover, the U.S. markets are closed as we have a long weekend for the Easter, so volatility could be suppressed, bearing headlines from the good old White House. We need to reframe that into the Orange House, considering we have an orange president, just saying. Now, Mark Kamazadakak. What a name. Kamazadakak, Chief Operating Officer of the Redstone Oracles, speaking of the Oracles, added the recent movements may be operational transfers, not necessarily signs of imminent selling pressure. I repeat, not signs of the imminent selling pressure. Still, concerns over the weekend volatility have been amped for the past couple of weeks over the Mantra token's price collapsing 90% on Sunday, April 13th from roughly $6.30 to 50 cents per coin, triggering market manipulation allegations and highlighting critical liquidity issues. for the industry. And 2 weeks ago, April 6th, Bitcoin fell below 74. And that was the current local bottom, FYI. It was in the 74 range. As investor concerns spread from a record-breaking $5 trillion sell-off from the S&P, its largest ever in stock market history. The correction was caused by the Biddy's 24/7 trading availability, which made it the only large liquid asset available for the de-risking on Sunday, according to the Adam Back OG himself, Blockstream founder and extraordinaire. He says on a weekend, there's not much volume. So you have to worse risks of rapid sort of flash crashes or the flash dips to get filled in again and again and again and again. And if you don't know, now you know. Next story of the day. This is a big headline here. Charles Schwab CEO, who was recently at the White House and Trump was bragging how he just made $1 billion in a day. I spot Bitcoin trading by April of 2026. So literally 1 year out from today's date. Charles Schwab Corp CEO, Mr. Ricky Wurster, is reportedly eyeing an April 2026 launch window to provide spot Bitcoin trading services to Schwab clients. How many of you use that trading service, Charles Schwab? Let me know. And according to RIABIZ, Wurster cited a 400% increase in traffic to Schwab's crypto website as evidence of investor interest. And remember when all like the CEOs of the institutions were like, no, there's absolutely no demand from anybody. And that was like Larry Fink right before they adopted the Bitcoin ETF. There's just no demand. Nobody wants it. And they're full of shit. There's a 400% increase in traffic to their site because it's a crypto site. Of course, their investors want to, put their investments into crypto. But anyways, they say now our expectation is that with the changing regulatory environment, we are hopeful and likely to be able to launch direct spot crypto. Our goal is to do that in the next 12 months, and we're on a great path to be able to do just that. The Charles Schwab CEO's comments reflect a growing trend of traditional financial institutions adopting crypto products and offering services that blur the line between the digital asset and the TradFi world. That's right. Mr. Ricky Wurster assumed at the helm of Schwab in 2025, and in a November 2024 Yahoo Finance interview said the company was happy to provide services to clients who want to trade digital assets. Then what's up with the delay? Why did they got to wait till next year, Mr. Wurster? But at the time, Wurster told the financial news outlet, Schwab wanted to offer directly to the clients, but was waiting for the positive regulatory catalyst. And following the re-election of the Trumpster for the United States of America, Wurster said that the financial services company anticipated a much better regulatory environment to expand the digital asset services. The Schwab CEO, as you can see on your screen, previously said he did not own any cryptocurrency. Tell it to the judge. Adding that he felt silly for not investing in the nascent asset class, as it had continued to provide the outsized investment gains. Well, I guess you don't know what you don't know when you're listening to the lizard folk. And there you have it. And if you don't know, now you know. In January of 2025, Charlie Schwab partnered with the Trump media TMTG to provide customized ETFs and crypto services for the upcoming Truth.fi service. Truth.fi will encompass digital asset and traditional financial services as a proposed alternative to the legacy banking system. TMTG CEO, White House official Devin Nunes, said that the goal of the TMTG is to provide an option for the individuals worried about the unfair banking practices and the cancellation, censorship, debanking, and privacy violations committed by the big tech and the woke corporations. Go woke, go broke. I'm standing by it. And if you don't know, now you know. All right, fam. Now for our feature story of the day. Can BitBonds really work? Well, VanEck's proposal for the U.S. to buy Bitcoin and refinance the debt. I want to break this down for you. And also, we have covered this before, the proposal to use $2 trillion, which they can print out of thin air. They could ultimately dump $2 trillion worth of their gold reserves and trade it for the Bitcoin and ultimately acquire 2.22 million BTC. And we already know Michael Saylor proposed for the U.S. and Trump and his administration at the recent crypto White House summit for them to acquire up to 5% of the Bitcoin supply, which is, 25% of the Bitcoin supply, which is 5 million Bitcoin. So I want to break this stuff down, and then I'll give you some insights from the high priest of Bitcoin, Max Kaiser, and his two Satoshis regarding this. But let's start here. At the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Summit 2025, held April 15th, 5 days ago, Matthew Sigel, head of the research over at VanEck, one of the largest asset management giants, unveiled a groundbreaking concept that could reshape how the U.S. government approaches its debt. A financial product calls he calls the BitBonds. This innovative bond would combine traditional U.S. Treasury bonds with a small exposure to Bitcoin, aiming to attract more buyers while lowering the borrowing costs. Now, this idea has been floated around. Under Sigel's proposal, each BitBond would consist of 90% traditional government debt and 10% tied to the Bitty value, with approximately $14 trillion in government debt maturing over the coming years. This approach could offer a new avenue for financing. Sigel emphasized the current high interest rates necessitate more attractive options for investors. By incorporating Bitcoin, the government could appeal to buyers looking for a hedge against inflation. According to VanEck, head of research, and even in a scenario where the Bitty's value plummets, Sigel argues that BitBonds can still benefit the government. For example, if issued with just a 1 or 2% interest rate, these bonds could remain cheaper than the prevailing market rates, which hover currently at around 4%. So should Bitcoin appreciate and yield returns exceeding 4.5% annually, any additional profits would be shared equally between the bondholders and the government, providing a win-win situation. However, Sigel cautioned that the Bitty would need to experience significant growth for the investors to offset the lower returns typically associated with government bonds. So everything is on the table. On the eve of Sigel's proposal, Bo Hines, who leads the Presidential Council of Advisors for Digital Assets at the White House, discussed strategies to enhance the U.S. Bitcoin reserves without relying on taxpayer funds. That's right. If we can have net neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin, they're all for it, as long as it doesn't cost taxpayers money. And there's a lot of significant viable ways we can do that. We can do that by dumping the USA gold reserves. We can do this by printing money out of thin air, or just whatever money is being wasted being sent to Ukraine, just buy some motherfucking Bitcoin. Common sense. And in a recent interview with Pompliano, the CEO of Professional Capital Management, Hines suggested updating the valuation of gold certificates currently held by the Treasury. Couldn't agree more, because that's fake gold. It's just a certificate, a gold note, for lack of a better term. So it's derivatives at the end of the day. So get rid of that shit and hold the apex predator, obviously the hardest asset known to mankind. Now, these certificates of the gold, which are recorded at just 43 an ounce, because they know it's fool's gold, are vastly undervalued compared to the current market price. As we know, we just hit a new gold all-time high of roughly just above 3,300. So adjusting this value could generate a surplus that the government can use to acquire Bitcoin. So many net neutral strategies, fam. It's not even funny. All while keeping its gold reserves intact. And Hines also stressed the importance of exploring all possible options, stating everything is on the table. The goal is to maximize the Bitty holdings through responsible and cost-neutral methods. That's the key. We will maximize the Bitty holdings, the US says, as long as it's cost neutral. And again, there's plenty of ways to do that, which we just outlined. He also revealed that the initial phase of the government's Bitcoin reserve would derive from digital assets seized in criminal investigations, criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance. Now, I also wanted to share some of the latest insights from Max, because he's the one who actually proposed the idea, like with the BitBonds and all that. And let's see what he has to say and chime in, and we'll go from there. China, and just some randoms. China takes the lead in the global culture war. Chinese media getting very funny and creative. Eggs in America, eh? That is kind of funny. But anyways, the war in Iraq was not a matter of terrorism, but maintaining control of the world's oil and gold. Saddam made a move. It threatened the U.S. dollar, and they needed to excuse to act. I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, here's the gold reserves right here. They wanted to seize Iraq's gold, so they pretended there was a terrorist attack, which was an insider job. And I got to be careful what I say while I'm on the tube, but I digress. You all know. Kaiser also put budget neutral, such a cowardly Bitcoin policy. Cowboy up before it's too late. I actually like that. We're going to repost that. And in response to the BitBonds, again, shout out Max for reposting my stream. He says they should, but they fear killing the U.S. dollar. So that's why he says the U.S. won't do it. And USD stablecoins provide a false sense of comfort and remove urgency. Stablecoins are a gateway drug to the fiat addiction. So though it is a viable strategy, he don't think it is the most likely scenario, obviously, and he breaks down why that is, because they fear it will kill the US dollar, and their goal is to keep the dollar strong. Now, I also wanted to share something very significant that caught my eyes a little earlier. Check this out. Context alert. Well, actually, it was something else before we get into the Clintons, and we all know they're evil. The Bushes are evil. There was something else here. Let's see here. This was the one. Yeah, this is the one. So I'm going to read you something very significant that Max posted earlier, and I hope you guys can repost it. Max and Stacy faced gang assassination on February 22nd, 2022 on 2/22/22. But we held our ground to fight with Bukele to win El Salvador's liberation from the MS-13. Flash forward to 2025. This motherfucker. Chris Van Hollen sipping Mai Tais with MS-13 killers in the Sheraton, the same place JV just stayed 2 months ago, in El Salvador, on the taxpayer's dime, swapping pupusa recipes. So my first instinct was, why the what's going on? Lock these mofos up. I mean, who in the right mind would be backing these piece of terrorists, right? But it gets a little deeper. And for those who probably don't know this, check this out. February 3rd, 2022, Max and Stacy first met President Bukele at the groundbreaking BINAES library. The Bukele miracle is happening, but US-based MS-13 gang decided to terrorize the nation with 87 homicides in 72 hours. Two very high-profile, obvious targets, Americans, Max and Stacy, find themselves alone in an abandoned hotel in San Benito, awaiting certain death. We didn't run. We decided to stay and help Bukele fight for El Salvador's liberation in any way possible. I am sickened when I see U.S. politicians coming to El Salvador now for photo ops with MS-13 terrorists to score political points. Where were these grifters during the terrorist occupation? Did they have anything to say during the mass slaughter in March of 2022? Do they even acknowledge that MS-13 were exported to El Salvador from the U.S. by the Clintons? That's right. Do they apologize for the U.S./Soviet proxy war that nearly obliterated the country? Do any of these venal gas bags apologize for that three-letter organization's 1980 assassination on the steps of the cathedral occurred just a few yards from where this video of President Bukele and Max and Stacy were taped? No. They're all a bunch of craven parasites living off the blood and tears of others. Disgusting. And here's the proof of work. I believe this was when Max first met Bukele alongside Stacy, and this was a very pivotal time, clearly, for El Salvador. So thank God they're alive, and thank God Bukele reigned supreme, and they locked up all these terrorists. But I don't understand why they're plotting with these American politicians. Not a good look. But anyways, I digress. There you have it. There's the latest from the high priest himself, Max Kaiser, and regarding the BitBonds and all those kind of things. And welcome everyone joining us. Happy Easter Sunday and happy 420. Close to 3,500 people on the stream. I'm hoping to flip green here as the weekly close is coming in any moment. And there's a Q&A segment of the live stream. I'm going to stick around here Easter Sunday. And if we can flip green and get a little significant pump, who knows? We may flip it into a pump watch. If not, it is what it is. It is still early in Bitcoin. I was at a meetup, and there are so many people wanting to learn and understand. It's so true. So many people, in the grand scheme of things, still don't even know what Bitcoin is. Maybe they've heard of it by now, but don't understand it, nor do they understand their money, nor do they understand how corrupted the dollar is. You know what I mean? Nor do they understand inflation or how inflation is created by design and all that kind of stuff.